Smiles Television Talk Show. I'm your host, Stephanie Anthony Miles, and thank you for tuning in again for another episode of Smiles. We have a wonderful broadcast for you. We're sitting here with someone who really can make you smile, but he also has a serious side as well, Ron Gregory, the brother of Dick Gregory. Ron Gregory is a native St. Louisan. He went to Sumner High School. He also went to Notre Dame. He has a wealth of experience and information to share with us. Don't go away. Stay tuned for Smiles Television Talk Show. Remember, faith without works is dead. The Monitor newspaper has been in business since 1963. They know the newspaper business. Support the Monitor. Support our own newspaper right here in East St. Louis, Illinois. Welcome back to Smiles Television Talk Show. As I told you, we're sitting here with Ron Gregory. Ron Gregory is the brother of Dick Gregory, and he has a lot to talk to us about today. Mr. Gregory, thank you for coming here today.
My pleasure.
I'm just so, I was going to say glad to meet you, but you were the one who allowed us to talk to Dick Gregory, so I want to thank you for that as well.
He had a ball. Really enjoyed it.
Well, let me ask you this. What does it feel like growing up, and I guess in the shadows of your big brother?
I remember writing a paper about that, doing some writing, and it was entitled "In the Shadow of a Giant."
Okay.
And I said, I was lucky because had he not been a giant, I'd had to write a paper about being in the shadow of a midget. So I have no problem being in the shadow of somebody of the scope of this individual. But this isn't something that just started. This has been his lifestyle all his life. When he was in high school, he was pushing for changes and things that he didn't think was right, and then it got a little bigger when he got to college. He was pushing down at SIU in Carbondale, and then plus he was always, in this comedy vein, always wanting to make people laugh. So, it's been something that we've been exposed to our life, because it was like a lifestyle with my mom and the 6 kids. So,
that's what I was about to ask you, because I know also that you have a little background in comedy. Not a little background, but you have background in comedy as well. And I was going to ask you, what was the family life like? It must have been fun in the home.
It was always, pranks and jokes and things, making people laugh, and it was just our way of life, like surviving the conditions that we were in, and we were able to kind of laugh at these things to the point where we sort of just laughed ourselves out of them.
And you went to Sumner High School.
Yeah.
Is that right? And you did some major things while you were there. You ran track and have records.
The thing that was so amazing is that 2 of my brothers were good track men. My oldest brother was a distant runner, and he tried his hands at it. And then Dick came along after him and ended up becoming the first African American to be state mile champion and cross country champion. But when he first started running in high school, they were not letting black and white athletes compete against each other until he pushed for them, and some of the doors began to open up. Well, he got out of high school in 1952, and I went in 1953. And the feeling was, if these got 2 brothers ahead of them were good distant runners, then I should be one also. So they got me right away. But the beauty of it, of the situation, is that a lot of the doors that had been closed and they were running were open. So I didn't have to fight all that adversity that they had. So during the time out, 4 years I was there, all I had to do was just run and progress. And as a result of it, Sky was the limit.
Tell us some of the awards and maybe accolades that you received.
When I was in high school, I was the Missouri State. I won the state mile and state cross country championship from my sophomore year, sophomore, junior, and senior year. First athlete in the state of Missouri that won 3 straight cross country championships.
Wow.
In addition to that, I set the national high school record in the mile and the national high school record in the 2 mile while I was in high school. So it was.
And it didn't stop in high school because you went on to Notre Dame.
Yeah, and when I graduated in January '57, 2 days after I had stepped off the auditorium in my high school, I was on the campus of Notre Dame with a 4-year scholarship to run track. And 4 years later, when I graduated from Notre Dame, I was listed on 13 all-time school records, and also I had set a world's half-mile record, indoor half-mile record. And I was also All-American at the All-American status in distance running. So it was a lot of fun.
But tell you what, we need to take a break. But when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about Notre Dame, and then we'll go further into your background. Stay tuned for more Smiles. Don't go away. Welcome back to Smiles. We're talking with Ron Gregory. Mr. Gregory, we were talking about Notre Dame. What was it like back then going to Notre Dame? When I say back then, what year were you in school there?
I was there from '57 to '61, and at the time I started, the enrollment at Notre Dame was 5,000, and the black enrollment was 20. We had 12 undergraduate students and 8 graduate students, which made a total of 20. And the thing that was so ironic, 6 of the 12 undergraduate students were athletes on athletic scholarship. So what we're saying is that had it not been for the athletic scholarship, there would have only been 6 undergraduate students there.
Wow, did you find yourself telling jokes while you were on campus?
Yeah, but you know, it was funny because I grew up in an all-black neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Elementary school was all black with students and teachers. High school, all black students and teachers. So it was perceived that once I went to Notre Dame, which was basically all white, I was going to have a heck of a transition going into that type of environment. What really amazed me is that the only thing that was, in a sense, different was the food I ate, and that had to do with the fact that I grew up in a southern atmosphere, southern diet, river fish, catfish, buffalo.
Okay.
But when I moved, going to school in Indiana, you're moving more toward food that's lake and ocean fish, and so that was different. The other thing was going from a public school to a Catholic university. There was a lot of things about Catholicism that was in the atmosphere. But what I thought that was going to be different was the fact that I'm going into what you call a Eurocentric type of situation, not realizing that our whole educational system, even though it was all black, was still Eurocentric. Basically, what we were taught the white thing, not the black thing.
You know, before taping, you were telling me about the new term that's coined for African Americans who are Eurocentric.
Yeah, it's basically a type of indoctrination where we are of African descent, but everything that we're exposed to and everything we're taught is of European ideology. So it was about 20 years ago, I remember my brother and Dick and I were talking about it, and he said that black people in America we were a conglomerate of both things. We were hybrids.
Okay.
And that we are of African American descent, but we are of European indoctrination. Well, a couple of weeks ago, I was on the internet, and they have coined a word for that, and it's a combination of the word Negro and European, and it's called Negropean.
Negropean.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's like, you know, it's a mutation that you put together. So my ideas of what I see on TV and what I read is basically European indoctrination,
Right.
but when I look in the mirror, that's not what I see.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And that
Negropean.
European.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. When we put this one on YouTube, that's what we're gonna call this one. Learn about being a Negropean. I never heard that one before.
Yeah.
But when you came back home after you left Notre Dame, your major, first of all, was physical education.
Health and
physical education. Then you came back and you taught in the St. Louis Public
I
Schools.
taught 3 years in elementary school and 4 years in high school. And let me tell you, I enjoyed every minute of it. It was great, you know. You're bringing new ideas into the kids, the youngsters that you are working with. You're able to relate to them because basically the type of the kids that I was teaching, their financial background was basically like mine.
Mhm.
And you're able to show them that you're not necessarily stuck in a condition. It's a type of condition that you can get yourself out of. Matter of fact, there was a quote in one of Dick's books, the first book he wrote, and the title of the chapter was "Not Poor, Just Broke." And people had to read and understand what that meant. You know, being poor is a state of mind. Being broke is a condition of your pocket.
That's right, that's right.
And you know, if you go back and look at one of the big shows that was on TV called the Beverly Hillbillies, these were people who were hillbillies who struck off and came to move to California as millionaires, but they still
Had the same mentality.
had the same mentality of being a hillbilly. So that's what we're talking about, not poor, just broke. Because if you think poor, then no matter what you get, you're still gonna act that way. But if you think in terms that it's a condition of my pocket, and once that changes, you know, I ride the tide with it.
I was reading something about you recently, and one of the quotes that was in there said that you didn't understand why tennis shoes that cost $175 were being marketed to the black community when it's evident that in most of those communities, the individuals purchasing them had to sell drugs to get them.
It's like a conspiracy. You go in, and I'm talking about the Air Jordan tennis shoe. Here's a shoe that's on the market for $159 or $169. Now, why you would call it an Air Jordan or the Michael Jordan shoe when Michael Jordan never played basketball in that shoe? You know, if you look back when he was in high school, when he was in college, and when he was in the pro, these guys, they were playing in Converse, okay, which is a reasonably priced tennis shoe. But they got this little psyche going, I'll put this name on the shoe, and if I buy the shoe, you know, it's like a status symbol. But you go in the low-income communities, and all these expensive things are being sold there. So, what do? You encourage me to be a lawbreaker in order to get the money to be able to afford these type of shoes. You go in affluent neighborhoods, that Air Jordan shoe is not in their store. You go in there and they got $29 and $39 tennis shoes. And the Air Jordan shoe, if you take, and it's probably made by Converse, if you take the Air Jordan label off of it, you couldn't sell that shoe for nowhere near the price. It's the same shoe. So is it the label that's on there? And why do you do it? But in the low-income community where you got this drug culture, you have to entice people with commodities to get them to take the risk of selling this type of stuff.
That's right. Let's shift gears a little bit. What are you doing now? I understand that there's some great things coming up.
Yeah, I've been retired from the school system for a number of years. Plus, I actually only taught in the school system for a little more than 13 or 14 years. I ended up working in the advisory program with the Human Development Corporation. And then later on, I became the associate director at a old youth center in North St. Louis, one of the type of youth centers that got started back in the near the end of the 1800s. That was part of like the settlement house, and worked with youth all my life. And I've been retired from, I went back into the school system for a while, but I've basically been retired since 2005. But now I'm doing a little dabbling in comedy.
Okay.
Also, I've always been interested in health and nutrition, so I've still maintained contact with people, and I work with people with diet situations and people who have illness, and I work with them about nutrients and things like that. So I keep busy.
Okay.
Plus, I've been married for 52 years.
Right, I met your beautiful wife.
Of a lady, and she keeps me busy too.
Okay.
And plus, one of my hobbies is cooking. So I'm always on the grill cooking, and we have a lot of parties at our house, and that keeps us busy.
Okay, you mentioned you like to dabble in comedy, and I understand coming up within a few months, there's going to be some things that you're involved with as well.
Yeah, we're supposed to be on the drawing board either in late April or early May. We will be doing a taping of a 2-hour comedy show.
Okay.
And I'll be writing and putting it together, and it's gonna be, there's a stadium a theater, small theater in the old Gaslight Square area. And oddly enough, that was the first place in St. Louis once Dick became nationally known. He performed in the Gaslight Square area, so it's a little nostalgic. It's not the same theater, but it's in the same area. And my daughter, I have a daughter, Tracy, married to a principal guy by the name of Mike. They've been married like about 15 years, and they got a granddaughter who's about 11 years old, and I mean, she's more than anybody could ask for. But she lives because they tore the old Gaslight Square area down and it became a housing area. And she had her house built in that area, and it's almost in the area. I'd say that her house is practically sitting in the area where that old theater.
Oh, wow, that is all right.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, when you have to compare, or if you would look at Dick Gregory's comedy and look at your comedy, what would you say is the major difference?
A type of guy who was angry about the conditions, and a lot of his comedy dealt with the plight of blacks in America and the conditions of America. Matter of fact, when you go to his lectures now, his lectures is 50% lecture, 50% comedy, because stuff. Mine is about comical situations, things that have taken place in my life, things that I see and things like that. And the funny side of life. That's what my comedy is.
Well, tell you what, we're going to take one more break, and when we come back, we'll have to be concluding up. But I want to talk a little bit about your family life and some other things. Don't go away. We'll be right back. The Monitor newspaper has been in business since 1963. They know the newspaper business. Support the Monitor. Support our own newspaper right here in East St. Louis, Illinois. And you grew up in a household with many siblings, as we discussed earlier. Was your dad home?
No.
Okay.
He was like the absentee landlord.
Okay.
You heard about it every now and then, but
Mhm.
other than that, he left when I think I was like 4 years old, and I didn't see him again until I was like 16, and that had to do with the fact that my mom had died, because my mom died when she was like 49 years old.
Okay, and how old were you when she passed?
I was 15. I was a high school freshman, and then my sister saw that. She had just recently gotten married and had twins. And, my baby sister and I, and the brother that was a year older than me, we were the ones that were still in the house. So she kind of came in and took over the household, and you can imagine what that was like, because she was a teenager herself. She kind of took over the household, and I was there for about a year and a half, and then it got to be a bit much for them. So then I ended up leaving and moving in with a family of guy that I was a schoolmate with, and I was there till I graduated from high school and went to college.
Wow, so you're a great example of how you can do all things if you like through Christ who strengthens you.
Yeah, it has to do with your drive, and my mom was a pusher. She exemplified that you could inherit an adverse condition, but you didn't have to incorporate it and make it part of you. Just get out there and see what you can do.
You know what, we're running short on time. I really want you to come back and do another broadcast, if you will.
Would love to.
Great, and that's what I like about you. You don't have any problems coming to East St. Louis, Illinois.
And you know what? I tell people, look, East St. Louis, Chicago, the whole world, this is America. And what you see in one area is indicative of this whole planet, this whole country,
That's right.
And I tell people, like you were talking about needing a permit to carry guns. My thing is, anywhere I need to go, if I have a feeling that I need to carry a gun to go there, I'm not going.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that Wild West
That's right.
mentality, and it's driven by the people who sell guns, And if this country would get behind and sell the same push on happiness and getting along and raising people up, if they had that same attitude and that same type of salesmanship for that they have as far as gun running and all like that, you wouldn't have any problem.
So you're telling people it's okay to smile, sell smiles, talk smiles, encourage happiness and things of that nature, and guns.
We live in a world where you can basically do anything you want. I find one of the biggest jokes in the world is that one time there was a law in the state of Missouri that you couldn't educate black people.
Mm.
A guy by the name of John Berry Beecher, who was a rich African American, put a boat on the Mississippi River and said, not educating them is land law. In my boat, that's maritime law. And he took blacks there and educated them. My thing is, how is it that when the law says you couldn't educate them, people found out how you could? Now the law says you have to educate them. We walk around saying we can't.
Right.
That's unbelievable.
And you know what, I read another quote that you had about the government, we're being able to put a man on the moon, but can't keep kids in the classroom.
It's crazy. I mean, we have all that type of technology where we can do that and put a man on the moon. And you have people come around and say, well, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Hey, they probably didn't believe you could fly. until they put a plane on that. And you just have people that just don't understand, hey, this is progress, you know. But if we can put a man on the moon, but we can't keep kids in school, I mean, what is this all about? I mean, look at what's going on in Washington, D.C. with Obamacare. They're screaming about the fact that when they finally opened it up, the computers couldn't handle it. And they were saying it's a bad program, but nobody talks about how many times in the space program them rockets blew up on the platform and never got off. They never talk about that. They never talk about, they never talk about that one that was up in the air and people who died. They don't talk about that. But they want to talk about all the problems and the headaches with, and we got to stop talking about Obamacare. That's the press, because that's kind of a name of it. This is called affordable care. And when you use the word affordable care, then that tells the story of in essence, what this health system is all about. If Obama was not an African American, people would be embracing this like crazy. But this is an African American, a guy who you go back so many years, his people were enslaved in this country. You know, the African American were enslaved. And there's the thing about, you look up and 100 and some years later, we went from slavery to the White House, from the slave house to the White House. How did that happen? And if you think in terms of slavery worldwide, slavery in America was the first slavery system that didn't exist 500 to 600 years. You go back in history, and any country that enslaved had slavery, this stuff lasted 500 years.
You know what, I'm going to have to ask you to come back.
I'll be back.
And we're going to go into more details on that. And tell Dick Gregory he's supposed to come back as well.
He said he was coming back. He said that when he...
Yeah, he did. Tell him we have him on tape.
Right.
Okay.
Yes. And like I said, he got here on a Thursday night, and Thursday we were over here Thursday night taping the show.
Right.
He had no problems coming over.
We really enjoyed him, and I'm enjoying you, and I thank you for coming to Smile Television Talk Show.
Appreciate it.
And I'll see you again real soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for tuning in to Smiles. Thank you again. Keep smiling. You look better when you smile.